Film Masters does it again. Another Blu-ray edition of two Roger Corman adjacent public domain, longtime public domain titles, given the best treatment they've ever gotten, probably ever will get. This is a double feature of Night of the Blood Beast and Attack of the Giant Leeches, both produced by Gene Corman, and they have some thematically. I don't think these were released as a double feature originally, but they are paired together because they share some cast members and some crew. And these discs are so much fun. I really love what Film Masters does. They take these movies that always just looked terrible because anybody who got a hold of any copy of them could release them, being public domain titles, and they really give them the treatment. They give them thorough extras. They give them the best restoration they possibly can, and they treat them with respect. Disreputable films treated with respect. So I love that. Now, I didn't really particularly love these two movies, but I love this kind of movie, and this is a great thing for me to throw on a Saturday afternoon, reminding me of the creature double feature of my youth, or late at night and have on in the background, or just settle in. They're both short, they're both barely an hour, and they're just a heck of a lot of fun. So let's delve into them, shall we? We have Night of the Blood Beast from 1958. It is 62 minutes, directed by Bernard L. Kowalski, who also directed Attack of the Giant Leeches, and stars Ed Nelson, who you would recognize, Michael Emmet, who's in the second feature, and Angela Greene. It is presented in DTS HD Master Audio 2.0 Mono, Dolby Digital 2.0 Mono, with English SDH subtitles, optional, and optional subtitles for the commentary if you want or need them. And it is presented, this is one of those things that they do too, which I love. This could be viewed either in theatrical 1.8.5 that'll more or less fill your screen, or TV 1.37 options, which is how most of us originally saw it. The TV version, basically, the only difference is there's just more headroom, maybe more headroom and more room below. It was shot that way so that it could play on TV. You don't see any booms or anything like that. It's would have fit an old TV screen. So it's cool to see it whichever way you want. If you're like, I really want to know what's going on above the heads in the theatrical version, you can watch the TV version. So this there's a disclaimer at the front of this. It says it comes from a 4K scan of a damaged original 35mm release print, with the exception of the title card, which came from 8mm, and there's some print damage and cuts present despite restoration work. The jump cuts are not really distracting. You can see the image kind of breathing or floating or twitching a little bit, and I think what that is really heavy anti-jitter, or image stabilization is the word, where sometimes if the sprocket holes on a piece of film stretch or are torn or whatever, the image or the film warps over time, the image will kind of go up and down or something. They applied something to that. So it's very, very subtle. You probably won't notice it, but I noticed it a little bit. It wasn't really distracting. It was just something that made me realize, wow, what they had to work with on this was probably in pretty rough shape. And at a glance, it looks really good. So it was both of these were American International releases, and I have a burning, passionate love for American International pictures. The story goes a little something like this. I'm not going to tell you the whole story. A dead astronaut gets pulled from a space capsule and taken back to a lab for analysis, where they find really strange things with the blood they draw from him, and then they find strange things like maybe he's not so dead anymore. And then they find a strange thing like there seems to be some kind of a creature lurking in the shadows trying to kill people, and it kind of extrapolates from there. In the extras, they say this might have been or was inspired by the original Thing from Another World. That didn't really strike me as I was watching it, but it does feel like, other stuff you've seen. It's fine. It's black and white. It's barely an hour. The creature is really pretty haggard. Apparently the creature costume was previously used just before this film was shot in Teenage Caveman, and it was just kind of slightly modified for this film. You get Bronson Caverns very briefly in this film. So it feels like this era of late 50s cheap drive-in horror movie, which is something I do so love. So it's I didn't love the movie, but it was fun while I watched it. The image, as I say, it was originally paired with She Gods of Shark Reef as a double feature from AIP. Bonus features, you get a commentary by Tom Weaver. You get the Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode featuring Night of the Blood Beast. So you get the full 92-minute episode. It's a Mike episode. It's very funny. It's cool. It's really cool when they can include those on here. You get the 8mm version, if you don't know about that. Here I go. Visual aids. 35mm film. Half of that is 16mm film. 35 would have been theatrical. 16 predominantly was for the home or for like libraries and schools and things like that. And 8mm was the home format. You could get 8mm films in little 50-foot reels that ran 3 minutes. You could get them in 200-foot reels that ran like 15 minutes. You could get a 400-foot reel that was like 20 minutes to a half hour, and you could get them in various iterations. You could get silent with subtitles. You could get sound. You could get the full feature or these condensed versions. So the 8mm version here is, what do we have? 7 minutes. So that was probably the 200-foot version. And it's just a very streamlined version of the film, silent with subtitles. And it's kind of fun. That's what people would have seen at home if you wanted to own these movies in the 60s or 70s. That was really the only way to do it before home video came along. Some kind of compromised version of it, but it was still exciting because you could watch it when you wanted to. The recreated trailer is on here, 1.5 minutes. That's where they take the original trailer, but they take the original trailer as a sound bed, essentially, and they take images from the restoration and they recreate the title, so it just looks better than whatever trailer kicking around probably would look. You get Night of the Blood Beast and Attack of the Giant Leeches publicity still and slideshow. That's 2 minutes set to score. You get a film restoration comparison. I love this kind of thing. That's 2 minutes. It is really impressive what they were able to do with this, because you see section of this film where there's image missing. It's like a little white blob, which means that like there's a hole in the film, and they were able to somehow patch that, and you don't really notice that when you're watching the movie. It's I'm a sucker for restoration information, so it's really cool. That's disc 1. Disc 2 is Attack of the Giant Leeches from 1959. Again, 62 minutes. Again, Bernard L. Kowalski directs, starring Yvette Vickers, who was in a lot of stuff around this time, notably Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, and also notably met a very unfortunate demise in her elder years with Ken Clark and Michael Emmet again. So the guy who plays the astronaut in Night of the Blood Beast plays Bayou Lothario in Attack of the Giant Leeches. Presented again, DTS HD Master Audio 2.0 Mono and Dolby Digital 2.0 Mono. This is just presented in the 1.85 widescreen format, theatrical, English SDH subtitles, and again, commentary subtitles. And again, this was an AIP release. Both of these films produced by Gene Corman. I believe Blood Beast was like written or co-written and produced by Gene Corman, and both executives produced by Roger Corman. Basic story here is it's like Southern Gothic on the bayou. It's Yvette Vickers is sort of this hot-to-trot young wife of this older, portly shopkeep, and she's always flirting with she's got all the menfolk hot under the collar, and she's having a dalliance with this other young buck, and the husband finds out about it and sort of finds them out in the bayou doing what people do horizontally, and gets mad and basically at gunpoint makes them go off into the water where giant leeches grab them. And then the story continues from there, where people are looking to find these missing people. They're looking to fend off the titular attack of the giant leeches, and who will survive and what will be left of them. The giant leeches look like people in giant hefty bags with like a giant mouth with the suction cup or something on the front. It works better than you'd think. There's sequences of this underwater grotto where they bring the victims and they're like sucking the blood from their necks. Is really actually pretty kind of creepy and grim. It's just another one of these cheapy AIP monster movies. It is more talk than monsters. It is more talk than action, but it's got a kind of a fun vibe to it. If you pair it with something that's a little bit more exciting than itself, it plays better, and it's generally how these movies work back then anyway. But it's fun, and it's an era of film that is underappreciated and long gone, and it's classic driving stuff, and I'm a driving kind of guy. So the image looks soft at times, and I was thinking, oh, maybe the restoration wasn't very good. And then I realized, no, the restoration's very good. It's a lot of this movie is kind of slightly out of focus. It's one of those things where you set your focal length. I've probably been guilty of it in these reviews too sometimes. You set your focal length and you really want the focus to be right here, but unfortunately what's back there is sharp and this is a little fuzzy. That happened a lot in this film. I don't know why that happened in this film, but probably shooting on a shoestring and as fast as possible in a hot and humid area probably didn't do anybody any favors, although it's set sort of in the South, like in the bayou or something, but I think they said this was an arboretum somewhere in California, so it's probably not as humid as it would have been if they were down in Louisiana doing this. Extras. Again, we have a commentary by Tom Weaver. We have another Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode featuring Attack of the Giant Leeches. It's 91 minutes, and it's a Joel episode, and it's really good. This was one that certain lines they said I remembered, so I clearly had seen this one at least once before. Born from TV, the Bernard Kowalski as a director featurette. That's 27 minutes, and it's a history of the director of this film, with C. Courtney Joyner being sort of the main speaker on this, and a lot of interesting footage and stills, and really the overall arc of this guy's career, more than just the two movies that you see on this set. You get Attack of the Giant Leeches recreated trailer that's a minute and a half, and an Yvette Vickers slideshow that's 2 minutes and set to the score of the film. And that's really photos from her entire life and career, which is kind of cool. Packaging is nothing too exotic. We get the cover, which I love that they utilize the original ad on poster art on these things. And it's a 2-discer, which again, I appreciate, because in the old days of these titles coming out on DVD, it would have been a single layer DVD with at least these two movies compressed beyond recognition on them. So single disc for each, it shows that they care. You get those nice little booklet here, which is Filmmasters, again, sizable booklets with content that is not duplicated in the extras on the disc. And we get The Boy Who Birthed the Blood Beast by Martin Varno as told to Tom Weaver, and it's about the guy who wrote Night of the Blood Beast at a very young age, and it talks about him dealing with the Cormans and dealing with Forrest J. Ackerman of Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine, who is his literary agent and stuff like that. You get some pages from the publicity, the original press book for the movies. They do a really good job with these booklets. And then you get Attack of the Giant Leeches by Tom Weaver, and that is an article about Attack of the Giant Leeches. So it's a good booklet and a really good release. So I didn't love the two movies as much as some of the films that Filmmasters have put out, but they're really fun titles, and it's really nice to see that they finally get good treatment on Blu-ray. Night of the Blood Beast, Attack of the Giant Leeches, courtesy, thank you once again, of Filmmasters.